session may be requested. Department of the Net Education, we will add on our attorney, Christine Lowe, Office of Legislative Counsel, to that report as well. And so we need to add her name in regards to Department of the Net Education, and then Christine Lowe, Attorney, Office of Legislative Counsel, under reports. And then the second one is to add a budget under new business as B, would be budget transfer, budget revision requests, and that is in personnel travel, 10,000 into operating supplies, and then also the air, 8,500 to the non-capital asset in the amount of 8,500. So that would be an item under B under new business to make that request. And of course, you know that Honorable Dr. Andy Nez is excused today, so we won't be able to act on his legislation, but he is okay to defer legislation number 0206-23 to the next meeting, and he's okay with that. So I just wanted to make those two add-on requests. Motioning party, Shade, Ms. Honorable Helena Nesbigay, Shade, Honorable Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson. So our AAC will add on those two items as reports with Department of the Net Education and Christine Lowe, Attorney, Office of Legislative Counsel, and then item 7, new business, which would be B, add budget transfer. With that, if there's no other add-ons, corrections, deletions to our agenda, committee members, I'd like to ask Shema for second reading, and then we'll go ahead and go to a roll call vote.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee, you have two amendments. One is to add Kristen Lowell, attorney with the Office of Legislative Counsel, under C, the report update along with the Department of Education. And it will be regarding the overview of the school board redistricting process. And then you have D, which is the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee budget revision request. And it includes transferring the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee's budget amounts from travel into operating supplies and into air travel. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Shema, for that, and that was under item 7, new business as B, for the budget revision transfer request. And just for the record, I'd like to, there's 2 budget transfers that we're going to be doing. The first one is the personal travel in the amount of 10,000 from 3230, transferring that 10,000 into 4410 operating supplies. The second budget transfer is going to be the air 3310 in the amount of 8,500 into 4,200 non-capital asset, which would be 8,500 as well. So I wanted to make that correction for the record. That will be under item B under new business. All right, so with that, we do have that read into the record. So with that, I'll go ahead and call for a roll call vote. Honorable Helena Nesbigay. Honorable Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson. Honorable George Toth. With that, we do have 3 members in favor, chair not voting, and we do have 1 excused absent and 1 unexcused absent. So with that, we do have an agenda here before us. And so with that, we do have the next item on the agenda, which is 4, Review and adopt the journal. There is none. And so with that, we will move on to wait, I'm sorry. Move on to item 4. I'm sorry, review and adopt the journal, which is August 8th through the 11th, August 15th, August 16th, August 17th, and August 21st. Committee members, Nikishin Consulado, if you guys want to do this individual, or if you guys just want to do as a whole to adopt the journal as written. Committee members, I leave this up to you. Do I have a motion to accept all the journals? A motion made by Honorable Helena Nez-Begay, second by Honorable George Toth, to accept and review and adopt the journal for August 8th through 11th, August 15, 16, 17, and the 21st. Committee members, are there any questions? And if there is no questions, I will go ahead and call for a roll call vote. Honorable Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson? Green. Honorable Helena Nez-Begay? Honorable George Toth? So with that, we do have 3 in favor, chair not voting, 1 excused, and 1 absent. So with that, we do have move forward with the motion to accept August 8th through the 11th journals, August 15, August 16, August 17, and August 21st journals as well. So with that, we will move on to item number 5, which is reviewing report. Receiving report, which will be coming from First Things First. Now for regions, presenters, we do have Ms. Sosi and then also Ms. Jordan DeHozy here before us. So with that, I will go ahead and give you the floor. You do have 20 minutes to present your presentation. After you complete your presentation, I will call for a motion in a second, and after that, I will call for questions or comments. And at that time, I will go ahead and accept those comments and questions, and if there is any, I'll go ahead and have the time given back to you to respond to those comments and questions. So are there any questions, presenters, Ms. Osi? No questions? Ms. Jordan DeHozy, any questions? So with that, we will go ahead and start the clock for you to do your presentation for 20 minutes. You may begin your presentation. Oh, not on Idoli.
All right. Yeah, Chair, Ado, Vice Chair, and honorable delegates, honorable Chair, honorable Vice Chair, thank you for having us today to present our report. We'll go ahead and get started. So first things first, we are a state agency. We're also known as the Early Childhood Development and Health Agency. We were created by a ballot initiative back in 2006. And most of our funding does come from tobacco tax from the state. That's the majority of our funding. And we focus on 3 areas, which is healthy development, quality early learning, and building strong families. We have 28 regional councils throughout the state of Arizona, Navajo Nation being one of the councils. And we do have 11 regional council members, and they are the governing body for the region. And they also determine the priorities for the region, as well as where the funding goes and what particular strategies those go to. Over 90% of our funds go to programs. So go ahead and go to the next slide. Oh, okay. So we do partner with all the tribes in Arizona. We have respect for tribal sovereignty, so we do have MOUs in place to work within the tribes in Arizona, including Navajo Nation. And the statute specifically states, the state statute that created First Things First specifically states that every 2 years, the tribes will determine how they would like to participate with First Things First. How that usually happens is a letter goes to the Navajo Nation. The Navajo Nation replies in terms of how they would like to participate. So 9 tribes participate as part of a larger geographical region. You'll see some of the nested tribes, but Navajo Nation itself participates as the Navajo Nation, and we are within the Arizona portion of the Navajo Nation. So in terms of some of the things that we do in partnership with tribes is we do have a yearly tribal consultation. We do send invitations out to that to council delegates as well as the Office of the President. This year's tribal consultation, the statewide tribal consultation, will take place in December. We also have a statute that specifically states that we will be able to use, or we can request tribal data from tribes, but we also work to get the permission of the tribe, and that's also through an established MOU. So we currently have that MOU with Navajo Nation. We also work to have culturally responsive programs. Within our particular region, I've taken it upon myself to ensure and write into the standards of practice of every strategy that Navajo culture and language is included in every program that we fund. Next slide. So a little bit more information about the tribal consultation. This is an annual statewide tribal consultation. We also can do regional tribal consultations, so that would be with Navajo Nation specifically, as opposed to all tribes that are participating through the state of Arizona. Why we like to have these tribal consultations is because it informs our policies, our practices, and we help to improve our processes as well. Again, we make sure that the tribes regulate all research and data collection on their tribal lands. So if we do primary data collection, we do make sure to go through the Navajo Nation IRB. We've done that in the past with our regional needs and assets report in terms of doing a parent and caregiver survey as well as a child care survey. This was back in 2006. We also make sure to have tribal agreements in place for data collection, analysis, and publication of data, and anything that we publish on our website in terms of data, even if it's secondary data, we do send to the President's office for approval. So a little bit of more information about how we work. So as I mentioned before, First Things First is the state of Arizona Early Childhood Development and Health Agency. We receive our funds from taxes, tobacco taxes. That gets funneled down to our regional partnership councils, and our local regional partnership council sets their priorities every 4 years in their strategic plan. After they set their priorities in the strategic plan, they allocate funding to specific strategies. Once that's done, we have grantees and partners that either competitively apply for grants for that funding, or we reach out to government partners such as the Department of Diné Education to carry out a specific strategy, and we go through the contract process with them as well as Navajo Nation. Right now, Department of Diné Education has 3 grant agreements with First Things First. And that's just an example of how we work with the tribe. There are other entities such as nonprofits and other organizations that can apply for funding and carry out the strategies. So then it is up to those entities to serve the children and families in Navajo Nation. As far as how our strategic planning process has worked, we really looked at what it means to be Diné and how families are living the Diné way of life. So we focused on the 4 directions in terms of our strategic planning. And as you can see on there, we focus on intellectual, physical development, community and relational wellness, and social emotional wellness. So those are 4 areas that the council has prioritized in terms of funding. And so under each of those directions, you'll see what they want to accomplish in terms of funding strategies. And not only did the council do that, but they also provided their own input from what they've seen in the community. We have a regional summit that occurs every year where we have community partners and parents participate. Last year we had a parent panel that gave us feedback on the services and resources that they feel like they need. And then we also couple that with data, which is the regional needs and assets report. So all of that comes together to determine the priorities and where the funding will go from First Things First. So what the council has done in terms of their strategic plan is they've come up with a vision statement. So this is their vision statement. It's to collaborate with all Navajo Nation partners to build a strong early childhood system where families have consistent access to quality early care, education, and health services rooted in Navajo values. What the strategies look like in terms of what's being funded, this is really a handful of what we're funding right now. And Quality First is ensuring that we are increasing the level of quality of care for child care centers and pre-Ks throughout the Navajo Nation. 9 of the Department of Child Care Development under Navajo Nation Social Services participate in the Quality First program, as well as all the pre-K programs on Navajo Nation through the school districts. What this program allows each of these programs to do is they participate in a quality rating system. I'm very happy to say that the Department of Child Care Development child care centers are mostly at quality at 3 and 4 stars. So they are providing quality child care at the level that other child cares are providing in places such as Phoenix and Flagstaff. They provide coaching. We provide coaching through this. We provide funding in terms of them being able to purchase other supplies that'll improve the centers. We also offer professional development, mental health consultation, and child care health consultation. We did have a strategy over the past 2 years that helped to work with DCCD to create plans to safely reopen child care centers across Navajo Nation. We have the Friends, Family, and Neighbor program, that is Kith and Kin. We help to provide training and professional development to in-home child care providers who are what they call unregulated. Essentially, that means kinship care, whether that is grandma, auntie, a cousin, a sibling, providing child care during the day to a child 0 to 5 years old. We also have home visiting. We have a language, literacy, and culture and tribal community strategy that's going to focus on community-based language and culture workshops for families with children 0 to 5 years old, as well as a survey to determine the language levels of families within Navajo Nation and asking them what their motivation would be behind learning Navajo and passing that on to their children. We focus on family support for children with developmental concerns, which are child care screenings, vision, hearing screenings, all of those before they get into school, as well as providing support for any developmental concerns that may occur as a result, or that may be identified as a result of those screenings. We have nutrition and physical activity. We provide professional development for early learning professionals, and we also provide a bachelor's degree and soon master's degree scholarships for professionals that are working within early childhood or a related field. And then we have our Birth to 5 helpline that's available for parents. So essentially why we're here today is just to present what we've been doing. That I know that's a lot of strategies that we carry out. Particularly right now, one of our big focuses is increasing the number of home-based child care providers. We want to do this because we know that's an asset. We know that there are many qualified people out there who have either been Head Start teachers before, have been childcare providers, have been a kith and kin provider that want to provide childcare for others in the community outside of their family. So we're working with Department of Department of Child Care Development under, again, Navajo Nation Social Services to see how we can increase the number of home-based child care providers. The other challenge that we typically come across is that it's hard to build child care centers. We know this can take 5 to 10, sometimes 20 years for it to happen, to get the land withdrawal to go through the different entities that we need to in order for that to happen. So while that's happening, we want to make sure that we're not ignoring the need for child care. So in order to do this, it involves many systems partners, and this is just a snapshot of the different partners that we would like to involve in a lot of our efforts. How we tend to work, so again, we are with the state, and we do honor tribal sovereignty, again, which is by no means we're not, trying to tell anyone what to do, but rather we work in a way with the tribe, in a way that we're either a convener or we're a participant. There have been instances in the past when the president's office has come to our office and said, can you lead this particular project and get partners together? So we will only work in the way of a leader if we are asked by the Navajo Nation, but mostly we are doing work of conveners or participating in projects. So one of the ways that we've been working as a convener is to bring together stakeholders, again, that can focus on that goal of increasing the number of home-based child care providers. So I'll turn it over to my colleague, Rodina, to talk about what that looks like.
For academic and employment success. There are 21 child care sites across the Navajo Nation. However, not all centers are able to serve the need for child care that the Navajo Nation workforce has. In the state of Arizona, 25% of employees leave their jobs due to inadequate child care options. Quality child care benefits 2 generations. It increases parents' employment and productivity, and it also helps ensure children are ready for success. Parents, especially single heads of household and those without paid time off or other benefits, need reliable child care to earn a living and advance. Further, limiting access to high-quality child care disproportionately affects rural communities, low-income families, and working women. Our home-based child care stakeholders group has come up with the following proposed solutions. So the Navajo Nation home-based child care stakeholders meeting, we have been meeting with this group for the past year, and it is made up of partners across the state of Arizona with the Arizona Department of Education, the Arizona Department of Child Care, the Navajo Nation Department of Child Care Development. And the purpose of our group meetings is, in partnership with the Navajo Nation, we would like to expand child care services for all families by providing health and safety resources, professional development, and technical assistance support to increase the number of home-based providers who are regulated and or certified. In addition, we would like to empower home-based providers through self-employment. Our goal is to formulate a process where home-based providers can become licensed, certified, and regulated according to Navajo Nation requirements. In addition, We would like to maintain communication and support with home-based providers regarding quality improvement, technical assistance, and professional development. Our home-based childcare stakeholders group has come up with the following proposed solutions. These solutions are proposed, not set in stone, and we do welcome feedback from the Health, Education, Human Services Committee, as well as other Navajo Nation entities and stakeholders. So with there being 21 child care centers across the Navajo Nation that currently don't have the capacity to serve the need for child care that the Navajo Nation workforce has, the solutions proposed are to increase the wages of the Navajo Nation early care workforce, and also to increase the number of independent registered home-based child care providers to supplement the need for child care services across the Navajo Nation. So this will result in high-quality childcare that fully serves childcare needs of the Navajo workforce. It also would enable adults to work while laying a foundation for children's success in school and beyond. So that's our
Yeah, thank you for that presentation. So with that, I will go ahead and call for a motion and a second. Committee members, do I have a motion to accept the presentation report that was provided to us? Committee members, motion. Honorable Helena Nance Begay. Do I have a second? Committee members, do I have a second? Honorable George Toth. Committee members, are there any questions, comments in regards to the presentation that was provided by First Things First on Navajo Region? Honorable Helena Nance Begay, the floor is yours.
Good morning. I just have a question on your presentation, Quaggy. Are you part of the Navajo Nation Head Start program? Is how, when, is it early childhood that you're talking about? Or is it Okay, is it early childhood you're talking about, or is it an extended daycare after Head Start classes are presented? Does it go into a daycare? And then another thing is that you're saying 21 sites, and I don't see you listed how many where these sites are at in the communities of the Navajo Nation. And then you said you have a private one, and where is that located at? And these, how many staff do you have under this program? And at each site, how many staff are working there? If you're saying early childhood, how many adult and child ratio do you have? Are you planning to open any more? I know it sounds like you guys are working with workforce, but some of our young parents, they don't really all work under workforce. And you see, they travel to their employment, and sometimes they have a hard time looking for a sitter, especially in the rural area. So I know some of these are challenging, and some of these are probably most of your places where you're having these childcare is probably like in the major communities of the reservation, like Tuba City, Chinle, Shiprock, Kienta, Wadat, Eshi. So what is your plan for the people that lives in the rural area? And those are my question, and back to you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sade, for those questions and comments. Honorable Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson.
Chair James and members of the HES Committee, good morning, as well as staff. And then thank you from First Things First, Ms. Sosi, as well as the other young lady. I didn't get your name. Good morning, and thank you for presenting here in front of HES this morning. You mentioned a couple of things. So first, I appreciate that they are providing and trying to fulfill some gaps that exist in early childhood development. And it seems to me like a lot of your focus area is on childcare and providing childcare services out in communities. And so that is a good thing. You mentioned that there's a letter that goes to the Navajo Nation, and I'm just wondering who it specifically goes to, and what was the response from the Navajo Nation with the more recent letter that was written to them? What was the Navajo Nation's response, whoever the Navajo Nation is? I don't know if it's executive side, if it's legislative side. I don't know who that letter goes to, so I'm wondering, asking you to clarify that. And then just also looking for the response that you were given from the nation. You mentioned that one of your grantees is Doty, and so that is, we've not really looked at some of the things, or I have not looked at some of the things they've done with their with the agreements that you have with them, and what they've been able to achieve with those funds. The other thing I just want to mention is, and the reason that I'm interested in when your letter goes out and when you hear from the Navajo Nation what their response is about their priorities and what they need, what the needs that need to be addressed are, you might have heard of DAP, the Diné Action Plan, and that really, I feel like it's an important policy, and it really needs attention and help. And I think that certainly aligns with the goals of just really providing safe, healthy homes for all of our children here on the Navajo Nation. And if we can support our families and reduce the childhood adversities and reduce the childhood traumas, I think we could really, be on our way to being a healthy nation. And that's my ultimate goal here, being on HES. And I really would like to see more support for DAP. And I really would like to see come together to where we get out into the communities and really pull together all the resources that we have for our children and our families, and really make it so that, that they're accessible and that they communicate and that we all work toward that one common goal. And First Things First could definitely be real part of this. So if there are any more, grant funds that are going to come down, I would really, I want to put word out there, and I would like to see DAP funded. And that'll be the extent of my comments. Thank you, Chair.
Shade, thank you for that. Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson. So with that, I believe there's no other questions from committee members. So I will go ahead and give the floor back to the presenters. to respond to questions and comments that were made by Honorable Helena Nasby and then also Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson.
Right, yeah. Chair, Honorable Helene, I don't know if that's making that sound, Helena Nesby-Gay. So in terms of your first question, are we a part of Head Start? We are not a part of Head Start. We're with the state of Arizona under the Early Childhood Development and Health Agency. We do work as systems partners with all the early childhood entities within Navajo Nation. So we do try to collaborate with Head Start as much as possible. Department of Diné Education with the NOSERS Navajo Nation Office of Special Ed and Rehabilitation Services. They have a grant under there. It's called Navajo Nation Project iLaunch. They have an early childhood collaborative team that meets monthly. So we are on the leadership team with that as well. So it is a system of partners that work together within early childhood. So we, again, come in usually when there's a gap in the system or when we're asked to participate either by the tribe or if Head Start comes and asks us for any services or any support, we try to provide that, as well as Navajo Nation Department of Diné Education. The way that we operate, I think the easiest way to explain it is almost like a foundation. So we receive money and then we set the priorities and goals of where that money should be spent. And we do that based on community input. We do try to have tribal leader input. We also use data. So most of our role is as a funding source. I think that's our first role. And then our second role is sort of to provide those supports where the gaps exist and collaborate and coordinate with different entities in the early childhood system. So in terms of early childhood, our program serves prenatal moms up to children 5 years old before they enter kindergarten. The early childhood system as a whole, with the early childhood collaborative team, my understanding is that they serve prenatal moms up to age 8, because that's typically the early childhood realm. So it kind of just depends on the different programs in terms of, are they serving 0 to 5, are they serving prenatal to 5, or are they serving 0 to 8 or prenatal to 8 years old. And we do, again, we're mostly a funding source, but what we're trying to focus on right now is to bring partners together on Navajo Nation so that we can increase childcare, because that's the #1 thing that we hear from parents who call our office, parents that are out in the community, or even from Head Start or Department of Child Care. In regards to those two programs, the majority of the funding that they receive is federal funds, and so that has a particular income eligibility on there, usually low to mid-income. So where we've kind of seen the need over the past few years is with working parents, especially during COVID, when you had a lot of doctors and public service professionals that were working all kinds of hours, but then the child care centers were closed, or they didn't qualify for the child care centers when they reopened. So that's really what we're trying to, that's kind of our main goal to serve, because we know a lot of working parents do not qualify for child care, even if they wanted to pay for it at the child care centers. The funding that the child care center receives, my understanding, is mostly federal funds. So that's a little bit of a challenge in terms of child care. In terms of building child care centers, We don't have the funding to build childcare centers, and our funding does continually tend to decrease because we are a majority funded by tobacco tax. The tobacco revenue in Arizona continues to decline each year, and so that basically forces us to think outside of the box, but also look at the assets that Navajo Nation has. So we know in Navajo Nation, there's a lot of home-based providers. There's a lot of professionals that want to provide care in their home. And the state of Arizona, and I believe DCCD, will allow about 3 or 4 children per registered provider. So there is a process that Navajo Nation has through Department of Child Care to go through the registered child care, what they call an independent child care provider process, so that they can provide child care in their home, given that they take these trainings, they meet a background check, they have particular requirements in place from Department of Child Care. We know that it's a little bit hard to understand what those requirements look like, so that's kind of where we want to come in and say this is maybe where we can help and provide outreach and go out into the community and provide more information about how that process can happen, to as far as maybe creating a directory. So those are some of the things that have come up in our home-based child care stakeholders meeting. And we've had a great partner in Department of Child Care with Social Services to try to come up with solutions of how that can happen. The other great thing about home-based providers is they can create their own payment schedule from parents. So parents who could take advantage of a home-based child care provider don't necessarily have to meet any income requirements, because they would be paying out of pocket directly to that home-based child care provider. So that helps to alleviate some of the child care that is needed from working professionals. We also know that Navajo families typically prefer their people that they know in their community as well. So that also gives that opportunity. If they know someone that wants to become a child care provider, we can work in that referral process to help them become trained to become a home-based child care provider. Also, there's benefits from having elders or just the older population. We've had a couple of interested people that are retired that want to provide child care as well. And again, we know the added benefit to that is culture, language development, and I think it's just, the grandmas have something in them that provide that nurturing, stability in their homes too. So we also want to encourage any of those particular benefits. As far as and so why home-based childcare makes a lot more sense for us to help with. It's not just the funding, it's not just the benefits that come from it, it's because it can happen anywhere. So those really rural communities, I think we would have a focus on particularly increasing the number of home-based childcare providers in the rural communities. I will quickly turn it over to my colleague. She has a map. I believe it's on page 15 in the packet that was given out, and be up on the screen.
The 21 child care are in the heavily populated areas on the nation: Tuba City, Kayenta, Chinle, Fort Defiance. And so, like you had mentioned, Honorable Councilwoman Helena Nesby-Gay, that sometimes these child care centers are too far for families to get to. And so with the solution that we're proposing is if we do create these home-based childcare within the homes of families themselves or within the family member, friend, or neighbor that they know within their home, then it could fulfill the need that these parents have, since they cannot travel very far to a lot of these child care centers. So increasing the number of independent registered home-based child care providers will really help out the Navajo workforce in general. So anyone who is working across the nation. So we've had experiences shared with us where parents who are working in the border town areas sometimes are unable to find child care centers within the border town areas or within the Navajo Nation, just distance-wise, it's too far. And so when I reflect back on my childhood and being taken care of by my aunts, my masene, those were natural ways that we took care of our own people. And we're really just trying to bring that back. So, and also empower our people to be able to be compensated for their time for helping out their relatives as well.
Navajo Nation. So most of them are under Navajo Nation Social Services Department of Child Care. And then there's one private child care center called Little Folks in Navajo, New Mexico. We're not even getting into the pre-Ks, but we do have another map that has pre-K centers on, pre-K centers throughout every school district. But again, those are in the highly populated areas. And then, Honorable Delegate Jermaine Simonson, in terms of your question, the letters to the Navajo Nation, when we do have a tribal consultation, we do have the letters come out to the executive office, so the Navajo Nation Office of the President. We've also written them to council members in the past. I believe this will be the first, so we haven't had it since last October. So the new delegates that are in office will receive a letter. Hopefully, I would say October, November is when those letters would go out. In the past, the response has been pretty good in terms of who we've had attend. I know over the years we've had the Navajo Nation president and vice president attend the tribal consultation. If they weren't able to come, they would typically send an executive staff assistant on their behalf. And then we've also had a few delegates from the previous Navajo Nation Council attend in years past. We usually get one or two delegates, and then get a representative from the Navajo Nation President's office. We have had an MOU when we were first created. The MOU letter was sent to the Office of the President. That was when President Joe Shirley was in office. That was signed by his office. And then most recently we had a data MOU that was sent to President Nez when he was in office, and he had also signed that as well. So it's been the response has been pretty positive, at least in our eyes. So that's the answer in terms of that. If there are any other offices that you would like us to send letters to, we can definitely do that. I should mention one more thing. When we do the regional needs and assets report we do it every 2 years. We do one called the long report that's every 4 years. What we do is we send letters to individual departments and divisions based on the data. So obviously, if it's Head Start data, we're going to send the letter to Head Start. If it's Child Care Center data, we're going to send it to Navajo Nation Department of Child Care. If it's, I'm trying to think of what other data we have. If it's nutrition or like food security data, we've typically sent that to social services as well. If it's WIC data, it goes to Department of Health. So it just depends on where that specific data is located. And we've had a pretty good response to that as well. I want to say at least 80 to 90% of the departments that we send letters to request data have returned or have sent in their data that we can compile into the report. And we, in the past, with the last administration, we had an executive assistant that really helped us through that process in terms of scheduling a meeting with all the different departments that we were requesting data from, and we had a what we would call a data kickoff meeting, where we gave them the background of the report, what the data would be used for, and then how we would be following up with them in the coming months. Once the report was published, we did send the published report back to those departments. In terms of the question around Department of Diné Education and their grant agreements, we just entered into, they've always had grant agreements with us. I want to say at least for the past 10 years. They've had grant agreements in the past 10 years with home visiting, with developmental children, family support for children with developmental concerns, and then developmental and sensory screening. So those are three areas we've had agreements, and those of course go through their process and through their legal counsel, and then they go on to OMB, and then finally to the president's office to get signed. So they've always returned their grant agreement signed on time, which is great. And so now that we're in a new what we call a new funding cycle, so we have our funding cycle that goes every 4 years. So these grants typically start and then they end in 4 years, and then we re-release the grants again. And whoever had been the grantee previously can then reapply for the grant. Right now, we are going through that grant process for a competitive grant, but what I can tell you right now is the agreements that Navajo Nation DODI has is the developmental and sensory screening, so they'll carry that out for the next 4 years. They have the family support children with developmental concerns, which they'll also carry out for the next 4 years. And they have a new strategy that we funded. It's called Family Support Coordination, which is essentially resource navigators going out into the communities and helping families get help to be navigated to specific services. So we've asked particularly that they do go out to the rural communities, and that they do as much support, so it's a warm handoff as opposed to this is where you need to go and here's the paperwork. It's the warm handoff in terms of this is where you go, can I help you fill out this paperwork, and how may I assist you to getting that paperwork into the office, and can we follow up with that office? Can I help you follow up with that office in a couple of weeks? And then once they get the services, how are those services going? So that warm handoff, so that's the third contract that they have right now. In terms of your question for DAP, we participated in the initial meetings in 2016 when the DAP was created, so we're familiar with it, but I do think we need to get involved more, because I think 2016 to 2018 was when we participated, and just, you know, the ACEs and the training was really a result of one of our council members who suggested that be included in the app, or so the DAP as well. So yes, we definitely do need to get re-involved with participating in those meetings. And just some other ways that, we're hoping to reduce ACEs and childhood trauma is through our home visitation programs and really building up those protective factors in a lot of our strategies too, such as, culture and language, and making sure that those are implemented. We also always want our families to have safe, stable environments, and however any of our strategies can help with that, we're definitely open to that. So I think that answers all the questions, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Committee members, we did receive a response back from the presenters. And so with that, I will move on to Honorable Don George Toll. Shukna Ash.
Yat asto committee members ko sa ni clinic to presenter. Ast neto ta sa kana your presenter no slinte keaj kalchin no clinic ato inta kudo hasil tsuko ito o shel hoslad ite at shit to get ishtita at nek asing hijatis to adis chahadoti akotide to konda bayalki Arizona deya e banasnskite are grant bison reitnel akkolahit ad Navajo Nation do bakahin ol cheta at the shinani ne do ne head start do ne chata is konle da alt khao bas kana be da alt khao ish ba yalki adish nalwo hat shit I see in that zits adide programming on the we work with the education do next up ako haned la in halchen the chaos what hit ed adnek eche in halchen which hat zido seems like you Arizona jede besnatlish there's none there's some in New Mexico yeah child care da hallo a quaito get istina go it ya joseph chani do listo that ishit I see biniya in hadet Navajo Nation di ni Washington ish in hich ish at no cochit lodge Arizona that's jo ade peso benasnish ako halit in hitide ni Washington bada alt khata adot lodi bada alt khata ish betrandot ash ado ish you promote your program jot ya so ako it ya kweki dat ashel dat achemgitishti ako at a shinst ako ide ya kodoben hijatis tsikhala dide netan his stwido sani nidi nilto khalchini hitando tarni nito nkizaye yaltkido leljoy hotelto sahoshi ya dibel kana bzadi do beta hozunda ja, als je bespreekt hozzen door die tien dat lesto. Jo je het government in Washington in Utah beten zikis. At de negen halchen bij elto jo bij bekajel geden nila. Adon be jeto matan lenil to. An hizaden ja dan jo in hisbahazen. Kishin hota. Anle we cheating de hote dai tamplekan zatle akot at najahato zhe ko balakana bazale ko ish at khatna notkin ish it a promote osle ako it ya to khadi laut ila aton ne to jota be ahazan hona adeshin ot inde to tahno sita stwido sani enile deni yao te honlzen do lis aton ne enlindo passion chindo khadi inalto ado dan hit inston khalchin sakana bazabo hol ati no ado benanil chishin hizat linigi to besina bayine ede ya koroben hichatis to he dishin bakat indo hashit an hi Washington bakahin ol cheki baki nitzen jo shin be asana ditlison da hitidil kil at ila bin yein khano as jote Lau e pesa tato kid leko. Nkisheda ita lo de Arizona ita nkapeso. Cheyost eto ebenas nishinko. Ede bahatis zeko wa janant Mr. James do Hasi Committee. Hunso has zedo le. Thank you.
Nana, thank you for that. Committee members, any other questions, comments? If not, I will go ahead and give the time back to the presenters here to provide feedback. Presenters?
She'e Rodina, Jordan DeHosi, Yanisha, Tkodik Ojan Inshle, Ashihe, A Bashashin, Bits Atni, A Dashache, Do Hashkleshni, A Dashanelle, Tkesh int Ed Ayasident Nasha, Ako Kwa Saga Hotzanege, Nihananish, a daily. Jodi Beso Agi, Aninegi, Hosto Hahotzo be the tobacco tax, Arizona tobacco tax. E benina niha services igi Arizona ba nide achini yaje New Mexico dan do Utah dan na kaigi e adot ati bishindel nish e quit e go nal nishigi e developmental programs, Navajo Nation Growing in Beauty, a nihilchine yesnalnish, Growing in Beauty, a First Things First funding, ye adat ego, equit ego alchine bitindalnish, ako ado Navajo Nation Child Care Development, First Things First funding, alto be dahalon. Child care development, there are child care centers in New Mexico, but our funding, igi nihibesa igi, Arizona child care centers, ya. Ado, the nebazadigi, his strategy, igi, native language preservation, thought nihe holo, strategy, igi, Ama do aja'a de nebazad alchiniyaje bitch yetke egi ba the strategy egi at the Nihir Regional Partnership Council at the Yendal Nish at Sogoshi enda strategy egi a program will implement that strategy. So quit ego nihidine do nihi alchine ban daidze.
Yeah, thank you for that. Ado kodonat be hanenzi ko ani akot ako koje da hos doha zohas anje aje nat oh na hanihigi en al kan lenigi e aje e hot a in hili hanahin dehin le ako ebik aho e hot a nalnesh as first things first not lenigi ako nana New Mexico yo troje hahot zohos anje do a hot a e abe بالخطأ هو الزوجي بخز أنا خديت لا إيه هاد بيسون لنيتش دا إن لأكو أكون هي أكو نوت أكو دو أكو هيها أدو دكوي قشيد إيا إيدي هوز دو خاهو زون هيلاز أنجي أجد إيا إيدي كوي قشي إيه هاد بالنهاز أكو دو إيد أن هيدي يا كوايكي دنبك هيا بي هاد زوجي دو إيه أن هيدي هاد أن هيلخا هاد إيدا أكو ألسكو كو دا هاد أكو ako hiaha kwanza de nahabik isito ito nahayadaltye nahalchinen leniki nahalchine yaje no setliki to na do chitliki nahabayadaltye don habin da ado amado ajata an setan leniki to aje bayadaltye kwanza den hilta kwel jish ako nihe to no nihe zabik aho ade beso nihe kodal ako Ado be ilhan so case do be ilhan see case chokot alto albeto ne ako all the other different tribes throughout the state of Arizona hot betnach nation le ako hiaha hidini do le ako had egi da additionally and he wait and liniki do abe ege had the dot zista do abe ege ya kot abe so koni la and send do nilta kwa ege ya ben yan hinan shol ben ya kwa in hinan lini dinosen be hojo naha naha alchine dane sehi gido na do chiligi hajon habna adon habayalt hit chokot ben hit yast hit ko a ko kwanza den jono ben hit na solne sele ko shade kot aho ben hit hatis kodo a large dasata ko health education human service committee gi ben nache ko ako shita sazindo in ha hensen ako yego dat yegon halchine yaje laton hat bada dot silin le ako do etaho aton antkin amma jatan lini do dan sehi kita hajo ajin dan notkin ashon de ako she what ni heche hastito ni hilba hozen shbesh be hanne en hilba hozen adonana besh chi be od nito belche el iniki el do Bahonosin ako shisazido hot tlata shije inda kodonat dan hitcha hahasti ako ashi hot kodon nanil neshtol shisazindo hot ako adoshije danat endol ako hot ashi albetishne ako hiha ntshago ako natashil na ashla nadil kidla ako honorable George Toth.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have to clarification. Shin the sits first Jota Jita Lato Besono, that Jota Bahazan yet, Hitchon here, down his Bahazan, but I do support Kodo in the cases. Anina Ashin stop. I don't care. Chikarot at this cheat and Halchin and in the Kagi Ale de Heat Link. Shishis Bajo Baro yo Bahansen and Halchin and in the cow. Daha ado what kidi ka ko lady jo gali what lata dash inle unless last so that and long what ya just tunli la shebet ahni slot okay pas china twidna ya dational I mean but ahni slot okay pas chinki ani dational na kwidna dashi what ela Anyway, we appreciate for your presentation and good luck in your career. So stay tuned. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So with that, I believe we do have a motion on the floor, which is Honorable Helena Nesbigay, and then second by Honorable George Toth. Again, committee members, if there's no questions, we do have the motion. If presenters have no other questions or nothing else to present, we'll go ahead, Ms. Osi.
Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself as well. I think I got scared by the time limit. So, she a memory so see in she a she hen shle hanagani bashichin na kaidine edische ada a she hen edishnele da ge helen de yesina sha. So those are my plans, but I did want to ask Honorable Chair, Vice Chair, as well as Honorable Council delegates, in terms of what we're trying to do, we came here because we want to be transparent about the work that we're doing and the Navajo Nation entities that we're working with, as well as how what support we're trying to provide in terms of increasing the number of child care providers. So just we would like to receive feedback from the HES committee as well as honorable council delegates, and so we would just like to ask what may be the best way to do that in terms of this home-based child care initiative that we are trying to work on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much again. So with that, we do have a motion on the floor. Motion made by Honorable Helena Nesbegay, second by Honorable George Toth. There's no other questions from presenters, comments from presenters, comments, questions from committee members. I don't see any. So with that, I will do a roll call vote. Honorable Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson. Honorable Helena Nesbegay. Honorable George Toth. With that, we do have 3 in favor, chair not voting, 1 excused, and 1 unexcused. So with that, again, thank you very much. Again, we're open to communication, so you have our work phone numbers, you have our office number, and you have our email, and then you have our staff's information as well. So thank you again. You are hereby excused from Health, Education, Human Service Committee. Thank you. Vote. With that, we will move on. We will move on to the next item, which is item B, report overview, Phil's Facilitators, Innovation, Education, Leadership, Development, and Sustainability. Presenter is Jerry Williams, representatives for Phil's. Mr. Jerry Williams, are you here? Going once. Mr. Jerry Williams, going twice. Mr. Jerry Williams, representative from the Phil's. Thank you, Mr. Blaine Nelson. Jensen, I apologize.
That's fine, thank you very much.
Good morning. This is Health, Education, Human Service Committee Chair. And right now, we do have on our agenda as presenter Mr. Jerry Williams. And so that's who our presenter is. And we did also lift the Zoom on-call meetings. And so with that, the presenter will need to be in person. What I can do as chair of Health, Education, Human Service Committee is I can defer this to our next regular meeting. And the presenter will need to be in person, and then we also would need all of the presenters' name to be added onto the agenda. Again, for today's agenda, we only have Mr. Jerry Williams as the representatives for Phil's. Mr. Jensen?
I will pass that message on to Jerry and Mr. Jerry Williamson, and we look forward to the opportunity of presenting our proposal for the economic and personal development in the Navajo Nation.
Okay, thank you very much for your understanding. So with that, Mr. Williams can go ahead and keep in contact with our staff, Ms. Benali or Ms. Thompson, to see which date is available for you to provide the, for him to provide the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen, for your understanding. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you.
With that, moving on to item number C. That item B will be reports from Mr. Jerry Williams, representative for Fields, will be deferred to the next regular meeting or until the presenter is available for our HESI meeting. So with that, moving on to item C, reports, and that is an update. Executive session may be requested with Department of the Net Education and Ms. Christine Lowe, Attorney of Office of the Legislative Council. Issues are updates. Presenters are Claudia Edgewater, Derek Franklin, and also our attorney, Ms. Christine Lowe. Those are the three presenters that will be providing us an update report. At the moment, I do have a request to go into executive session, but I am not sure of the time frame. I will leave this up to the presenters. What is your request for the time frame?
90 minutes.
Executive session is requested for 90 minutes. Honorable George Toth. So with that, we do have a motion made by Honorable George Toth to go into executive session for 90 minutes with the Department of the Net Education and our attorney, Ms. Christine Lowe, Office of the Legislative Council. Committee members, do we have a second? A second made by Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson. Are there any questions pertaining to the 90 minutes executive session that is requested here? Committee members? 90 minutes. So this 90 minutes is going to be hour and a half, or it could be shorter. I'll just put it that way, 90 minutes, or it could be shorter. But for right now, we do have a motion on the floor by Honorable George Toth and Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson. Any other questions? Any other comments, committee members? If not, let's take a vote to go into executive session for 90 minutes. Honorable Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson. Honorable Helena Nesbigay. Honorable George Toth. With that, we do have 3 in favor, Chair not voting, 1 excused, and 1 unexcused HESI member. With that, we will go into executive session, and we will begin at 11:42 a.m., and we will reconvene at 1:12 p.m. So with that, we are hereby in executive session. Okay, so we'll be turning off everything, YouTube, the recording, well, we need to, exit and then, do we motion second? And a vote for the executive session?
Yeah, motion second. Out of yeah,
Okay, so we're back on now?
You ready, Chris?
We're ready? We're ready? Okay. All right then. With that, yad Asia al Bahasi lo atlan ado bikitche kode ya atladim kitaz cans to ba natin tat dahaljin ya kwaike yahnane kredoli sha al Bahasi lo kodo ya bel case executive session iki Ashid ya ade to exit out of executive session. So I'll need a motion and a second to exit out of executive session. Committee members, motion made by Honorable Don George Toth and second by Clayla. Second, Honorable Helena Naz-Begay to exit out of executive session exit out at 1:20 p.m. Are there any questions, committee members? If there's no questions, I will go ahead and call for roll call vote to exit out of executive session at 1:20 p.m. Honorable Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson? Green? Honorable Helena Naz-Begay? Honorable George Toth? With that, we have 3 in favor, chair not voting, 1 excused, and 1 unexcused absent. With that, we are exited out of executive session at 1:20 p.m. So with that, we will move on back to the agenda, which is report and update from Department of Education, and then also our attorney, Ms. Christine Lowe. With that, I'll need a motion to accept the update that we received in executive session. Honorable Don George Toth. Do I have a second? Honorable Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson. Are there any questions, committee members? Going twice, no questions. With that, I'll go straight to the roll call vote. Honorable Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson. Honorable Helena Naz-Begay. Honorable George Toth. With that, we do have 3 in favor, chair not voting, 1 excused member, and 1 unexcused member. With that, we did accept the report from Department of Education and Ms. Christine Lowe in executive session. So with that, thank you, Superintendent Edgewater, Intern Superintendent, for joining us this afternoon. You are hereby excused from HESI. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Okay, so with that, moving on to item number 6, which is old business. There is none. Moving on to item number 7, new business, which is legislation number 0206-23. We sponsor is Honorable Delegate Andy Nez. And Honorable Dr. Andy Nez. Second call, Honorable Dr. Nez. He is not present here with us, so with that, we will defer legislation number 0206-23 to our next regular committee meeting. So with that, moving on to item B under new business. This was an add-on when we were approving our agenda, and that was to do a budget transfer request, and that budget transfer is from 3230 personnel travel in the amount of 10,000 to 4410 operating supplies in the amount of 10,000. $1,000. Second one is from 3310 Air in the amount of $8,500 to 4200 non-capital asset to in the amount of $8,500. And that is a budget transfer request that we will need a motion in a second to move forward to do that budget transfer within our Health, Education, Human Service Committee line item budget account. Do I have a motion, committee members? Honorable Helena Nez-Begay. Do I have a second? Honorable George Toth makes that second. Okay, so with that, are there any questions, committee members, regarding the budget transfer from personnel, travel to capital supplies and the non-capital assets? Then go. If there's no question, twice, 3 times, I will go to a roll call vote. With that, Honorable Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson. Honorable Helena Nez-Begay. Honorable George Toth. With that, we do have 3 in favor, chair not voting, 1 member excused, and 1 member unexcused. With that, the motion carries to do budget transfers from the Health, Education, Human Service budget account. Now moving on to item 8, close of meeting announcements. Committee members, are there any announcement? If there is no announcement, staff, no announcement, going twice. 3 times. With that, I will call for a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Honorable Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson. Do I have a second for adjournment? Honorable George Toth. With that, committee members, are there any questions to adjourn here at 1:26 p.m.? Going twice, 3 times. Roll call vote for adjournment at 1:26 p.m. Honorable Vice Chair Jermaine Simonson. Honorable Helena Nez-Begay. Honorable George Toth. With that, we do have 3 members in favor, chair not voting, 1 member excused, and 1 member unexcused. With that, we are hereby adjourned at 1:26 p.m. Again, thank you, committee members, and that will complete our regular meeting for August 28th, 2023. Ikahat, safe travels, and enjoy the rest of the day. Hakonet, thank you.